You've probably heard of wavetable synthesis before, maybe even FM synthesis and subtractive synthesis. But have you heard of granular synthesis? If not, then stick around and you'll learn exactly why this is Flume's favorite sound design trick. In this video, I'll be going over what makes granular synthesis so unique, how it actually works, and 5 ways you can use it in your tracks today to create unique sounds. But very quickly, if you're looking to supercharge your production skills in just 12 weeks, check out our Producer Launchpad program. We'll follow you with one-on-one tutoring, your very own strategy session, weekly modules, and a lot more. So if you're interested, check out the link below to apply. And while you're at it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to let other people know we exist. And with that out of the way now, let's get into it. So what is granular synthesis? The easiest way is probably first to show you the kind of sounds you can get from granular synthesis. I'll be using Fruity Granulizer, which is a free plugin for most of this tutorial. So instead of using classic oscillators like you would in Vital or Serum or 99% of synths out there, granular synthesis actually uses audio samples. As you can see here, the interface is really simple. You don't have any oscillators or filters or anything like that. Instead, you load in an audio sample and then you mess with it. So what does granular synthesis actually do? Well, it takes the audio sample you give it, slices it into grains, and then rearranges them and plays them in different patterns to create brand new textures. And so based on the settings you choose, it's going to slice up more or less grains, play them quicker, faster. So because we're effectively chopping up a sample, granular synthesis works really well for glitchy effects. You've got 2 major sections, which are the grains here at the top and then effects here in the middle. So firstly, grains, we have attack, hold, grain spacing, and wave spacing. As I mentioned, the grains are the little slices that Fruity Granulizer will create. So attack lets me adjust the attack of each grain. Next up is hold, and this sets how long each grain will play for. Grain spacing pretty much dictates the speed of playback, so it's the space or time between each grain that's played. So you can hear all the way on the left, each grain is played really close to each other, creating this almost chorusy effect. And as I increase the grain spacing, you can clearly hear each grain being played separately. And finally, wave spacing controls the number of grains that are generated. By default, wave spacing is set here at 100%, but you can increase it all the way to 300%, creating more grains. And as I decrease under 100%, we're going to create less grains. And if I go below 100%, we're actually going to reverse the order of grains played. Finally, we have some effects here. So pan lets you pan left and right every second grain. Then you have depth and speed. This is an LFO that applies to the wave spacing. Depth will control the amplitude of the LFO applying to the wave spacing, and speed will apply the speed or rate of the LFO of the wave spacing. And the first way I love to use granular synthesis is on vocals. So let me show you this short little loop I have here, just drums and bass. I've loaded the vocal here in Fruity Granulizer, and there's 0 effects being applied, so no reverb or delay or anything. I'm just going to set 2 long C5 notes here in 3D Granulizer, and then I'm going to play our loop, and I'm going to mess with the settings until I find something I like. What I like to do next would be to add some volume automation. So here I'm using Gatekeeper, but you can use any plugin you want, or even just volume automation, just to create a sense of rhythm on top of this sampling. So this is what it sounds like. And that's the first way you can use granular synthesis in your tracks. Another way I like to use granular synthesis is to create pads. One classic method you can use to create a pad is to simply start with an ARP and then add a ton of delay and reverb and create this washed out sound. Another way you can do it is to use granular synthesis. So here I have this ARP playing here. What I've done here is simply render it to audio, and then I'm going to drag it into a 3D Granulizer. Perfect, so I love that. What I would do next is simply add some reverb on it, and then a bit of side chaining as well. So what's great with this technique is that we're adding movement to our pad. So instead of playing just a single chord and then adding a lot of reverb, which is going to be very static, here we're creating infinite movement because we're chopping up and playing back samples at random here. And if I wanted, I could even automate any of these settings here to create even more movement. All right, next up, another way I like to use granular synthesis is on drums, and more specifically to create glitchy transitions. So let me give you a listen, this little lo-fi loop I have going on here. By the way, on that piano loop, I'm actually using Crystallizer, which in itself is also a granular effect. If you want a full guide on Crystallizer, let me know in the comments below. But it's basically a delay that uses slices or grains of your incoming audio and then plays them back, pitches them, reverses them, etc. But let's load up our drum loop in 3D Granulizer and see what we can achieve. And what I'm simply going to do is load up Edison here and just record everything I do within 3D Granulizer. And this is one of the easiest ways to simply resample and select what I like afterwards. All right, so I think I have enough here. So just press stop. I'm going to drag this into our project. All I have to do is sift through our recording and find something I like. So one thing you can do here is to simply fit it to the number of bars that you want. Slice here, and then use the slide tool, press S. And this way you can easily just scan through your sample and find something that works. Nice. So that's one way you can create glitchy transitions with granular synthesis. Another way you can use granular synthesis is to resample your basses. Similarly to what I just showed, I would just load up Edison, record the entire audio, mess around with all of these presets here, and then select the parts that I like to resample. Alright, enough messing around, I could stay here all day doing this. Finally, one last example of how you can use 3D Granulizer is with ambiences and textures. So here I have this street ambience, but instead of just adding it to the project like that, let's load it up in 3D Granulizer. And it just lets you be a bit more creative instead of just slapping one big ambience loop into your project. All right, that's it for this guide on granular synthesis. I hope I was able to show you a few use cases that you can try and implement in your tracks today. Let me know in the comments down below when you love to use granular synthesis. I'd love for people to share their favorite tips and tricks and when to use it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.